You can measure the distance between any two items in the 3D view by clicking on them. The Measure dialog box can display straight line and dimension-wise distances between the items. The Measure tool can also display other measurement information, such as the distance between parallel surfaces, relative plane angles, and, for an individual item, its dimensions and total area. Besides the obvious usefulness of having a tool that can make measurements quickly, easily, and accurately within a RapidPlan Create project, consider the practical applications of this real-world example. You want to design a project in RapidPlan Create that accurately reflects your real-world work cell. As you design it, you can use the Measure tool to ensure the dimensions and measurements in your virtual world match those of your real-world work cell. For example, we know exactly where the actual robot is mounted in a work cell because we have measured the distances from its mounting plate to the front and side of the table it's mounted on. We then use the Measure tool in RapidPlan Create to measure from the front and side of the table to determine exactly where the robot should be mounted. We'll use these primitives to illustrate the possibilities of the Measure tool. Select the Measure tool in the banner. You can measure the dimensions of an object simply by clicking an edge. Select a surface to measure its area. Clicking on a sphere displays these measurements. Here are a few notes about the Measure dialog itself. To help keep your measurements consistent, objects that are weakly mated in the work cell cannot move as long as the Measure dialog is displayed. You can clear the current measurement by clicking on the 3D view somewhere outside the Measure dialog, as long as you don't click on an object. You can easily copy measurements in the dialog by clicking on the clipboard icon. Close the dialog by clicking on its Close button or pressing the Escape key. You'll probably use the Measure tool most often for measuring distances between items in the work cell. With the Measure dialog active, select one item and then the other. The minimum straight line distance between the items is displayed with a dashed black line. The Measure dialog also tells you that in this example, the edges are parallel. For edges or surfaces that are not parallel, the Measure dialog displays their relative plane angles. Hover your cursor over the dimension-wise measurements for a color-coded display of lengths along X, Y, and Z. You can measure distances between frames as well, or between frames and objects. There are frames at the top of this cylinder and on this box. Here are the measured distances between the selected frames. And here are the distances between this cylinder's frame and this surface of the box.